Everyone, so today I'm going to do, I guess it's a bit of a rant, just a bit of a chat in general about something that's been on my mind for a while, but particularly at the moment it seems appropriate to talk about it, and that is bands splitting up and having to depart, the lack of money in the industry, and just what we can do about it, things we can't do, things we can do, just have a general, I don't know, I'm going to be making it up as I go along, so who knows what's going to come out, but just my thoughts on it basically. So last week I had my last interview with the guys from Lost Alone, and you'll be hard pushed to find a band that are more in love with music. They literally live it 24/7. They're so passionate, and they don't just have passion, they're talented, and lovely, and they work hard, so they've got all the elements, yet they've had to split up. Now I think there's something else going on there, so I don't know the ins and outs, but still it's a sad fact that they've had to come to an end. And then a few days after that we had Canterbury splitting up, and they're one of those bands that everyone says they love. They're always called underrated. So many good songs. They look great, they sound great, nice guys again, have worked hard, had good support slots, but yet they've had to call it a day. And then in the new year we've got the Blackouts final tour, which is incredibly sad. The music industry is going to feel really weird without them, and on the interview circuit I don't know what I'm going to do without seeing them, because they're always great to chat to and a pleasure to be around, so that's going to be really sad. They're just a few really that I've had to call it a day recently. Kids and Glass Houses as well, same goes for them. I could go on and on, but what I want to say is, what can we do about this? Now it dawned on me that when bands say they're splitting up, they do these tours and these last gigs and they sell out. Now if they have the ability to sell out these venues and people are so passionate about them at these moments, then surely they have the ability to draw a crowd like when they're not announcing a split. So I guess what I'm saying is that we have to appreciate the bands while they're here and while they're still touring and releasing music, and not just have a panic when they say they're leaving and think, I've got to see their last ever show. We've got to kind of embrace what they give us while they're around so they can stay around even longer. So I know that's not always possible. I know for a fact I'm struggling with money, and I'm not the only one. It's hard times on the money front. So we can't all fork out to go to all their tour dates or even one tour date. But I don't know, perhaps we can save up to go to tour, ask for tickets for our birthday, Christmas presents. Make sure, if we can afford to buy merchandise, that we buy the genuine article, not off the people that stand outside with the fake merch. And if failing that we really can't afford to fork out money for the shows, the merch, or their releases, their singles or their albums, just retweet everything that from the band that they tweet out about their releases, about their tour dates, about their appearances on TV or at festivals. Bombard the radio stations asking them to play them, particularly ones like Radio 1, who are now integral to, bands getting to that next stage and starting to make money to sustain themselves and the band and their lifestyle. Not just Zane Lowe and Dan P. Carter shows, but the primetime shows, the Fern Cotton shows, the Nick Grimshaw shows. We've seen it can happen with Bring Me the Horizon. Got in the proper charts. I mean, they got high up at one point. They're at #1 in the midweeks or even on the Saturday. So we know that we can get rock and metal up there if we just go for it. So let's try and make that happen a bit more often, I say. Bring Me the Horizon also proved that we can fill Wembley. I mean, anyone that was at that gig will know how special that was. That was one of those ones that will go down in history. Hopefully it will be one that kind of marked a change in the industry, and it will be the first of many, but either way it was an important night. And obviously we've got You Me at 6, they're playing the O2 with All Time Low. And hopefully this will just keep happening. Our UK bands and just general rock bands will be able to do this in the same way that, you know, Linkin Park can fill up the O2. I'd love to see some more UK bands doing that. Now, talking about how we embrace bands when we think they're going away, let's think about how many bands have split, gone on a hiatus or disbanded. I don't want to sound cynical or jaded about the industry, but think what happens when they decide they're going to have a comeback tour or a reunited. There's a huge buzz, there's lots of press, they've got front page stories about how they've come back together and why. You've got these tours which are bigger than ever, filling bigger venues, you've got whole new merch. I'm not saying that all bands have thought about this and been meticulous and manipulative, but it is a proven formula that if bands go away, the thirst for them comes back, the demand for them comes back, and they come back quite often with a bang. So I wouldn't be surprised if more bands keep trying to do this, but wouldn't it be better if they didn't have to do this, that, you know, we could maintain them enough so they just stuck around and gave us great music continuously and weren't pulling their hair out and stressing about where their money's coming from. And that leads me on kind of to the illusions and the misconceptions about being in a band. I still speak to some people who have kind of no insider knowledge or not really in the industry, and they still think that people in bands are loaded, that they've got fast cars, make loads of money, it's glamorous, all this sort of stuff. And the reality for the most is very different. A lot of band members I know this Christmas are really struggling because the money hasn't come through for various reasons, and they're considering getting jobs outside of that. No shame in that whatsoever, but that does slow down the process of getting the music stuff done. It's an added stress, and let me tell you, it can be quite stressful being in a band. I've seen it close hand, because you think about the money that comes in. Some goes to the management team, their agents, the booking agents, then you have to pay guitar techs, merch guys, the transport, all that sort of stuff. And that's why you see a lot of bands are actually cutting down on the people they bring on tours, because they can't afford it anymore. They're also not in the big tour buses, you see them in the smaller sprinter vans and things like that. I'm losing my track now. But basically, they're not rolling in money. You can't make much money now off singles and stuff like that because of YouTube. People are often, you know, just watching the videos on YouTube and don't even need to buy them off iTunes or anything like that. So they do rely on ticket sales. And even that, you know, they've got to divide it by everyone each time. And if they want to put on a great show, use pyro, use, you know, the, I don't know what those things called, the things that the air bursts out of. I can't remember the technical name. But they cost a lot of money, and if they want to give the fans a spectacular show, quite often they'll take the cut and they won't make any profit from it because they want to put on a great show for their fans. So I just hope you're aware that quite often they're doing things for the fans and losing out quite drastically on money. A lot of the bands, when they tour countries like America, they have to make a huge loss. So when you see fans tweeting saying, come to here, we miss you, the bands definitely want to do that. They'd love to travel as much as possible, but it costs them a lot, and unless they've got good backing from a record label that sees it as the investment that it is, hopefully, it's very hard to do. But obviously touring America, they do see it as this thing that if they tour enough, eventually the venues will get bigger and the fan base will get bigger, and eventually it will pay off, but it is a risk. And people like me, also the journalists that come to the show, we're not buying tickets to the show because we're put on a guest list as members of press. And so we're not actually helping the problem because we're not contributing money to tickets, and I feel bad about that. But at the same time, I don't know if people are aware of this, but lots of people like me that do online press interviews, things like that, we often don't get paid for doing that. So we do that for the love and the passion of music and wanting to spread the word of the bands. So to us, getting the free tickets is the kind of the thing that keeps us going and allows us to do it, because we're not making the money elsewhere. But as I said, we're not contributing to the bands, but hopefully by posting videos and spreading the news about what they're doing, showing people their personalities, that sort of thing, we are helping in another way, fingers crossed. And so that's what I want to say as well, that make sure you do retweet interviews and stuff like that, because it helps people like us that are struggling in money in this music industry, and it helps the bands as well. So always try and retweet something if you think it's going to help the band. It doesn't sound like a big thing to do, and it's very, I guess maybe the impact's not that big, but just if you love a band, play them to your friends, tell your friends, and who knows, they might fall in love with them too, and that trail will start the Chinese whispers of telling everyone about these great bands, and it will increase the fan base and hopefully spread the word. And essentially fan base is what these bands need, and a passionate fan base that are willing to go that extra mile for the bands. So buy the tickets, do the retweets, post stuff on blogs about them, buy the merch, you know, all that stuff, and pestering the radio stations. I feel like I've gone off on tangents. This will probably be part one of a series of videos on this topic, but just wanted to say, let's look after our favourite bands. They won't be here forever, sadly. Let's make the work a bit easier for them. Obviously, they're in a lovely position to play music to people that love it, but it's a lot of hard work, and it can be very frustrating in times because of the politics, lack of money, all complicated behind the scenes things that people don't see. So, you know, let's support them so they can be around for as long as possible, giving us these great musical delights and giving us some of the best times we have in our lives at concerts and festivals. As I said, I think there's some positive changes that have happened this year with, you know, like I said, Bring Me the Horizon and Marmozets coming through strong this year, Lonely the Brave. And obviously Young Guns are going to be coming back in 2015 with a new album, so hopefully big things for them as well are coming. So fingers crossed for rock and metal and all alternative music, and let's give them all we got. Okay, cheers.